Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays on Spaced Out Radio. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for our archives. Now broadcasting from our Mile High Radio Clubhouse on Spaced Out Saturdays with your host, Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, April 20th, Sunday, April 21st for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. I hope you guys are having an awesome week with your family this weekend, and an awesome evening. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and I'm live tonight broadcasting from Bayfield, Colorado. We are 150,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find on deeptalkradio.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the Encounter Online, dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. So tonight, I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight, we will be talking to and getting to know Mr. Michael Hall and his team, the UFOiTeam. And tonight, for the UFOiTeam, we have Nikki Jacobs, Lee Strauss, Sue Wells, as well as Troy Bacon. Michael Hall is a former Thurston County Superior Court Judge Pro Tem, certified mediator, and the founding partner of the law firm PS. Michael received a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1976 for the Edward R. Monroe College of Communications at Washington State University in broadcasting journalism, and is a doctor of jurisprudence in just 2 years from Southwestern Law School in Los Angeles in 1987. He has taught legal seminars and conflict management courses for the Washington State Bar Association and the Boeing Management Association, and currently maintains a general legal and estate planning practice in Seattle, Washington, where he also finds time to serve as pro bono legal counsel for various local and national nonprofit organizations. With a lifelong interest in UFOs/UAPs and the paranormal, being an experiencer himself, Michael Hall has served as a field investigator for the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, legal counsel for the National UFO Reporting Center, a research associate for the National Aviation Reporting Center on anomalous phenomena, as well as a longtime consultant to the Mutual UFO Network. Additionally, Michael has represented, as attorney of record, such noted UFOologists and paranormal researchers as Grant Cameron, Peter Davenport, Richard Haynes, and Dr. James Harder. The UFOiTeam was founded and directed by Michael W. Hall. The UFOiTeam is an experienced group of highly educated UFO paranormal field investigators who travel to anomalous hotspots around the world by plane, train, bus, and local ride-sharing services to investigate UFO, Bigfoot, ghosts, and other strange paranormal activity. using their wide-ranging expertise as well as those of their ex-military and retired government scientific consultants to uncover whatever truth there is out there. The UFOiTeam is on a quest to red pill the public regarding UFOs and other issues of paranormal disclosure, including the potential reality of the alien presence on Earth, as well as the paradigm shift in consciousness that seems to connect everything. And there's more I want to read, but let's get to our humans in the room. And let's start with Michael W. Hall. Michael, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
Hey, Tessa, thank you so much. And by the way, that was one of the best recitations of our intro that I have heard in a while, because you did a fantastic job of going over those strange words and admonitions that we have here on all of our diverse group, the UFOiTeam. So thank you for having us on tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such an awesome compliment. I always feel self-conscious, like, man, I totally blew that. So I'm so glad you said that. And it's so great to have... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you started off with a bang. Thank you so much for that intro.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And thanks so much to your team as well for being here.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's kind of nice to round up at least 5 of us here on this Easter weekend and holiday. So I'm just excited that the rest of the team has joined us, or at least some of them, and being able to kind of get different perspectives on the group and some of our investigations and weird phenomena that we've come up with.
And it's so awesome. How did you go from being in the legal field to being in the paranormal, aka UFO field?
Well, great question. In reality, it was the other way around. How did I always be interested in the UFOs and the paranormal and then end up going to law school? That's
right.
A major issue. I didn't go to law school till I was, later in life. I was already married, had at least one kid, and decided to go to law school at 32 years old. Changed my career. I got tired of working for other people, getting laid off, those kinds of normal things when you're out in the workforce. So I decided to work for myself. But I've always been interested in this topic. The paranormal, Bigfoot, ghosts, orbs, especially UFOs, ever since I can remember. So I brought that in to the profession myself as a lawyer. Matter of fact, it ended up over 30 years of practice now in my law practice, representing many of the famous ufologists in the field, as you've read already, and being able to help them with forming their legal entities. And every once in a while, there's a legal issue that comes along that needs to have some attention as well. So I've always been interested in the subject and just kind of melded it into, my profession.
So where did you find the interest? Did you have an early experience, like as a child or whatnot, with the paranormal or a UFO experience? Or did you were just interested in it?
Yeah, I was one of those guys who just was always interested in, the old Fate magazine articles, the pulp comic books about the space programs and those kinds of things. I didn't have, as far as I can remember, I didn't have a major aha moment as a child that got me into it. It wasn't until later on in life that I actually, had some really unique experiences, I believe, sightings of UFOs and those kinds of things. So I think there's many of us out there who really can't pinpoint why they were interested, but always have been. And one of the phenomena that kind of prove that is the popularity of the Ancient Aliens television series. There's so many people that are just into that. Probably not a large percentage of them have claimed to have seen a UFO or been abducted. They're just kind of innately interested.
And when did you form the UFOiTeam? How did you guys all find each other?
Well, that's a great story because, at one point, after my divorce, after all my kids were grown, all 4 of them, as adults, At one point, I decided, I'm going to get back into this big time and really kind of drill down into the subject of UFOs. So I started by just hanging out at Denny's, like on a Wednesday evening, a Monday evening, and kind of, going through surfing the internet and having a nice meal. And every once in a while, a friend of mine would just show up and join me. I say, hey, I'm going to Denny's. If you want to hang out, and talk about strange things, I'll be there. And a few people started joining me. And then when I found out that Russell Targ, Jacques Vallée, and Kit Green in the 1970s met at their local Denny's and started talking about the remote viewing program and Jacques Vallée's books about UFOs, I figured, hey, this is a great place to start a group. So we ended up just kind of growing slowly but surely, and more people came along and joined us. And then we would do expeditions. We would plan summer events, go out sky watching, and investigating various hotspots around our local area, and it just grew from there.
That's awesome. And it's so awesome to have a team because it's kind of like a second family. Well, at least for me it is. It's like my paranormal family, and I don't know, I love spending time with them. How often do you guys get together for meetings?
Well, we meet on a weekly basis, Monday nights from 6 to 8 p.m., that's Pacific Standard Time. If anyone wants to go and join us, they go to Facebook and punch in UFOiTeam with a lowercase I, and we Facebook Live our meetings, actually, and we can talk with people all around the world, and we have interesting topics that we come up with. We discuss our future and past investigations that we've done, and talk about the hot topics of the day from week to week. So every Monday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, people can find us on Facebook.
And you guys are also on a couple other fields, aren't you? As far as like Periscope. And I think last time I watched you guys had like at least 3 or 4 different cameras set up.
Yeah, we're not afraid to fail technologically live. we try Facebook, and we try Periscope, we try Twitter, and all sorts of things, because we're just experimenting ourselves. But we find that wherever we go, we get a lot of people interested in hearing about the various expertise that we have on the team. Everyone from, we've got Scotty, our retired Boeing engineer, very analytical scientist kind of guy. We've got Nikki. We've got our intuitive psychic. We've got Mary Kennedy, who is a certified hypnotherapist in the Dolores Canyon venue of training, by the way. We've got Troy Bacon, the enlightened millennial, who is a indigenous peoples expert. That's his degree, undergraduate degree. And we've got various people that have different expertises, and bringing them to the table every week. And then when we go on our sky watches, we've got a whole lot of gear that we bring along with us, and that's where Lee Strauss shows up and brings all these phenomenal cameras and basic night vision and all these kinds of things that we use for recording the phenomena we see almost any time we go out. So we're going to be talking, hopefully, about all that tonight.
Oh, I'd love that. So let's meet the team that we have with us right now. Who would you like to start with? Would you like to start with the newest member or one of the originals?
Let's start with one of the newest members. How about Sue Hu? Are you out there? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Sue.
Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, there we go.
There you are.
The blasted mute
say
button.
Something to Tessa, and introduce yourself to her.
Okay, my name is Sue, and I became interested in the UFO phenomena. Well, I've always been interested in cryptids, and I just started watching Ancient Aliens, the show Michael mentioned, and I got more interested, started getting library books on the subject of UFOs and cryptids, and read about portals. And one day I was just trying to find a meetup group that had the same interests I did, and I found out, yes, there's one, and they meet at Denny's. So guess what? That's when I started attending the meetings. And since then, I've bought some low-tech gear, but I wanted to go out and start gathering some hopefully awesome pictures, and then I can share those with others.
Have you caught some really good stuff so far?
Well, no, because I just got my gear, and I ended up in the hospital with a gallbladder attack. So,
dang it!
I've been, So I've been kind of out of it for a while, but I'm going to have a surgery, and then I'll be right back into it.
And I'm sorry, Michael, you were going to say something.
Well, Tessa, I just wanted to explain. We call Sue Who, like one of the Who's from Whoville. She is about as small as a munchkin, and the cutest. So we have different nicknames for pretty much all of us there. But that's Sue Who, and she is just bouncing back from gallbladder attack. So we will hopefully get her on the mend for probably next month in May, doing some of our sky watches. So it's great to have Sue on board. She has an enthusiasm that's unquenchable. By the way, she traveled over 2 hours from very south Washington State to come up to our meetings in Linwood at Denny's. So she is a really solid member of the team.
You guys are worth it.
Yeah, that's some determination right there.
Yes. Well, I consider them worth it. I always learn a lot, and it's very interesting.
And now, how about, why don't we go to Nikki next? Nikki, are you out there? You might want to jump on board here and say a few things.
Hello.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi. My name is Nikki Jacobs. I came on the UFOiTeam, in mid-July, end July of last year. And unfortunately haven't been able to go out on any sky watches, which is what I plan on doing all this year, as much as I possibly can. Doing a lot more activities and things like that. But I'm a clairvoyant, medium as well, and what else? Retired advocate. And I enjoy being on the UFOiTeam. What would you like to know, Tessa?
Well, how did you find the... Oh, go ahead, Michael, sorry.
Well, I was just going to explain is that Nikki is one of our enthusiastic members of the team who kind of coordinates a lot of these things. Matter of fact, she was responsible for dragging us onto your show because of her prolific chat room experiences here on Spaced Out Radio. So we want to thank Nikki for hooking us up with Tessa during the show tonight. This has been a fun thing for us to do, and thank you for all your hard work. Matter of fact, Tessa, you have been on for so long and done such a high sterling job of this weekend stint for Spaced Out Radio that we just are pleased as punch to be with you tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for that, and I'm so grateful to have you guys here. You and I have kind of known each other through Facebook and shared things back and forth for quite some time, Michael, and then Nikki, I was so grateful to have her come into the chat room, and then I realized who she was and that she was a part of your team, and then she had offered to sacrifice you to the SOR, asylum. But I mean, I was so grateful for her to do that. I'm like, are you serious? Like, I'd love to have you guys on. You guys are so interesting, and all the amazing work you do. And there was a particular story that she told me that we'll actually get into later that I was like, man, I just really, really got to hear you guys' stuff. So thank you so much, Nikki. You rock, and I'm so grateful that you got everybody on here for me. And we have, like Michael said, such a large group, for a group come on here. It's awesome.
Well, thank you for that, definitely. Matter of fact, maybe we should jump on to our enlightened millennial, Troy Bacon. If he's online, we can jump in there and have him introduce himself.
Hello, this is Troy.
Don't be shy, buddy.
Hi, Troy.
Speak up.
Can you hear me? Okay, this is the enlightened millennial of the UFOiTeam, the youngest member, and I joined last July, about a month after graduating from the Evergreen State College. And I did that because, well, first of all, it was recommended to me by Trish, who recently moved to Tacoma, I believe, or is in that process. She was part of our team, and she's still welcome with us anytime. But Trish was recommended to me by a lady named Una Drake, who used to be the director of SUFON, the Seattle UFO Network, until recently. And now I am one of the assistant leaders of SUFON on the leadership team. And so I got involved with the UFOiTeam after I was talking with Una last July, actually June, after I got out of college, and we went to the Fair and Human Relations Congress, and I actually approached her with the interest of possibly becoming involved with SUFON and maybe even becoming part of the leadership, but she said she was planning on stepping back, so that's how that all worked out. And then I ended up attending UFOiTeam meetings. It's just the right thing that has clicked with me and that I just like being involved in.
And by the way, Troy, being an indigenous peoples scholar himself, is one of our Bigfoot experts as well. We've got Kevin Beagle and Samara, and we've got Troy himself, who are into the cryptids. And he did say the Fairy and Human Relations Congress. That was fairy as in the fae.
Mm-hmm.
So he into all those different types of lore as well. So he's a very kind of scientific-minded, but a young and enthusiastic member of the team for sure.
Well, that's awesome to have someone, and having a team that's so diverse, being that he's educated in the Fae. Like, I just recently came upon a case like that here. I'm like, really? Like, they really are here? Like, I always believed in them, but I never experienced them until this last year. But to be experiencing that and other cryptids, it's so awesome to have a member of the team like that. So they're lucky to have you, Mr. Bacon.
Well, thank you. I enjoy being a part of it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, team, but I think the only other member that has not introduced himself yet is Lee Strauss. Is that right? Do we have anybody else other than Lee left?
Lee is it.
Okay. If Lee can unmute himself and jump on the line, and let's introduce you, Lee.
I am here, Michael. And glad
All
to
right.
be here.
Well, this is going to... Now, by the way, is Ander with you as well?
Ander, you Rusty, is right next to me. Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, those are two...
Actually, we are watching something. We are watching something live in the sky right now that is very interesting. So,
well, let's have you jump in there
we-
and explain what you guys are doing, because I was going to do it, but you take over and tell us what you're doing right now.
Well, right now we're in the southeastern part of Washington watching the night sky. We're not too far away from Mount Adams and Mount St. Helens, actually, where we're at. And we're doing a sky watch live while we are on the phone. And we had this bright light come across the sky just now, and it dimmed out and then disappeared. It's gone, and it was pretty darn bright, like Venus. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh,
Wow.
my goodness. This is live on tape here, Tessa.
We got it. Wow, man, I wish I could have seen that. You guys got it on video, though?
Yeah, that was a pretty wild one. What's that?
Did you guys get it on video?
I think I might have gotten part of it on video, yes.
Awesome.
As
Good
it
score.
was, as it was coming from the south, going northward.
Wow.
So Lee, you might want to take just a moment and try to describe for our radio listeners exactly what you saw without any warning. Tell us about it.
Well, it was headed from the south to the north. It was headed north, and it was like the size of Venus, and it was just coming across the sky. Uresti signaled me to it, and then I started to follow with my eye, and it looked like a big bright satellite, like maybe the space station. But the space station runs from the west to the east, and this was going from the south to the north. So that's not normal for the space station. Not that I've ever seen, anyway. So
Yeah.
got it. Probably got it with the Canon 7D doing time lapse. Although I wasn't able to get the other cameras on it at the time. So
Yeah, that's the difficult part, is getting it on camera. Like, you just get this kind of shock or whatever, where you're trying to get something to work and you're just fidgeting and nothing's working. And to get that on time lapse at least is pretty amazing.
yeah, it will be. Gotten quite a bit. Yeah, it doesn't seem like we go out and don't see anything. Usually we see something we can't explain, and so we already have tonight.
And Lee, you might want to take a moment here to describe your sophisticated gear that you typically bring along for Skywatch on the UFOiTeam, because I think people would be fascinated to hear the kind of gear that we have.
Well, I have a Canon 7D, which does the time lapse of the night sky with a wide angle lens, and then I've got 2 Luna Optics full color night vision cameras on board my rig. I've got a Best Garter binocular night vision. Then I got a full spectrum camera and a regular video camera as well. So I'm quite equipped out here. And I've got this giant battery pack that powers everything.
And Tessa, he's got about 3 tripods chock full of gear, including the monitors that go onto the tripod, so he didn't have to look through the eyepieces of all of these cameras. You might want to explain your monitor system there as well, Lee.
Yeah, so every night vision camera has its own monitor. I just used the full spectrum has its onboard monitor, so that's fine. And then the other camera, the Sony Handycam, just has its own as well. The only reason I use that is because none of the other cameras are collecting audio, so I need to catch it somewhere. And the monitors, they're about a 7-inch monitor apiece, so I'm night blind as I'm doing this. That's why I use Ander and his laser. He's spotting things in the sky for me, and then I'll just take the camera rig and then hopefully catch whatever he's spotting on video.
So it's kind of a team approach there, Tessa, because
yeah.
when you're staring, as Lee does, into the monitors, they're so bright. When you try to look up to the night sky, basically you're night blind at that point. So we have Ander Uristi out there, who is our local Basque contingent of the UFOiTeam, and this guy has an eyesight you would not believe. And he has the laser pointer, which is quite powerful. we're, of course, very careful on who and what and when we're pointing that laser pointer. But if he sees something anomalous, and by the way, he checks whether it's anomalous or not on the apps that we have on our phones and electronic devices to determine if it's anything known, as far as, space junk or the ISS or any kind of airplane. It's all there. So if we can determine it's anomalous and it's moving in a strange fashion, then Ander can circle it with the laser pointer to bring Lee's attention to it there. Now, Lee, I don't know if Ander is available or if you can hand the phone off to Ander, but I think what we should do is introduce him at least shortly and ask him a couple questions about how he spots these anomalies in the night sky.
For sure.
Hello, this is Ander.
Hello, Andrew.
Hey, it's Ander, actually. Ander.
Oh, Ander.
Yeah, and hey, Ander,
Yes, sir.
thanks for joining the group here tonight, and thank you for being out there spotting for Lee. I just thought it'd be great for you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about, your recording background, your sound engineer, and the whole idea of the UFOiTeam, because you are one of the founding members as well with Lee Strauss.
That's correct, yes, and I do kind of apologize. I'm still a little sick, and one of my ears is a little clogged from a sinus infection, so I do apologize if I ask for people to repeat themselves. But yes, I've been with the UFOiTeam since it began. We basically just come out every night, look up, try to find something that we've never seen before. What I like to do is look at one particular star, and then if I see that something around starts to move, then we focus in on it. Because if you look directly at something, trying to find something, it's a lot harder. But if you just focus and kind of use your peripherals to see everything, it's a lot easier to spot a lot more of the sky than you would trying to pinpoint by looking directly.
And Ander, do you want to describe as well what Lee was telling us that you guys just saw a few moments ago?
Yeah, I mean, at first I thought it was a satellite. I mean, it was pretty bright, and then it started to kind of flicker, and then it just kind of went low. It kept the same speed, rate, and direction, but yeah, it just kind of just vanished. That's probably the most unusual thing we've seen so far. We've seen a lot of planes and satellites, of course, but you could always tell what the difference with those. Planes are usually pretty low and have a red light or some kind of pattern, right? And then satellites they always stay pretty well lit and just continue at a continuous rate. But this thing was pretty different. I mean, it just kind of went like it was trying to it just turned off, and then it was a lot real dim, and it would just kind of come in and out of in light, and then just kind of just vanished. We kind of just lost track of it after that.
Well, Ander, maybe you can give us a little bit of a description here of what you guys are seeing right now in the night sky, whether there's any light pollution where you're at, or whether the stars are clear enough. Just kind of describe what the evening looks like out there where you guys are sky watching right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really nice right now. We can definitely see a really good portion of the sky. I mean, I actually checked on the Sky Guide app, and it looks like the moon won't come up for a while. So we have right now we don't have any light pollution. There's no cities or anything. It's like a couple, let me see, 4 lights off in the distance, like small houses. We are by a road, however, and so every now and then you'll hear like a truck or a car or something go by, and you can see the headlights, but we're fairly down low, so we don't get any of that light disturbing any of what we're doing.
Wonderful. Tessa, I'll throw it to you.
Well, thank you so much for explaining that to us. And I do agree with the not just looking straight on, but kind of opening your vision to where you have like a peripheral and forward view. I seem to notice different things in the sky more often than not when I do that, because you're not just focusing on one area of the sky. You're opening it up to, at least a 90-degree angle, or I don't know, 20 or 100% for both sides. I don't know. Is that 100? 90, 90, 180? There we go.
Yeah, it'd be about a 180 degree, and I'll tell you what, with Anders' peripheral vision, he's probably got more than 180 degrees there that he can, keep an eye on, basically, because out of the corner of your eye, sometimes that's quite sensitive. So I don't know. What do you think, Anders?
I'm sorry, Mark. Could you repeat the question again? Hello? Yeah, the phone was on my left side. It's just a bad ear. So could you please repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, put it on your good ear, buddy.
I got you now.
All right. Well, we were asking basically on your peripheral vision. Do you think you have more than 180 degrees that you can keep tabs on, or what do you think is the range?
I have no idea, to be honest. I'm not
super sensitive.
I see things. I turn around and there they are. That's all I know. I couldn't give you I couldn't answer that. I'm sorry.
No worries.
That's all right.
But it helps.
By the way, Andrew, do you have one eye that's stronger than the other or more sensitive than the other? Do you normally recognize things out of one eye or the other?
I'm 20/20.
On both. Amazing.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That helps too. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Well, by the way, as we're talking, Andrew, and as you jump on here, make sure that you're right close to that microphone so we can hear you well, because sometimes you pull away a little bit there, just so you know. All right. Well, Tessa,
it's just me falling.
Oh, yeah.
We're on the slant.
Well, Tessa, that is the members of the UFOiTeam that we've got on the line there. We've got Suhu, we've got Nikki and Troy, and Lee Strauss and Ander out in the field right now. So we are going to have a fantastic, fun-filled night tonight.
Indeed. I'm super excited. Let's first I want to know, where are Ander and Lee right now? What mountain are they on exactly?
Well, we're not really on a mountain. We're on a big hillside right now. I'm sure it has a name, but I don't know which. But we are south of us would be Mount St. Helens. Just to the east of us would be Mount. Yeah, I'm sorry. So to the east would be Mount Adams. To the south would be Mount St. Helens. Behind us would be Mount Rainier.
Awesome.
So we're kind of in the trifecta here.
Yeah, that's a good position.
Wow.
We noticed, most of the UFOs that we have seen have been over volcanoes, so that's generally where we try to focus our attention.
Yeah, it's funny how those areas just seem to be active, extra active. I mean, there's so many different areas that are, but especially around mountainous or, like you were saying, volcanic areas.
Yeah, it's been amazing for us, the amount of UFOs and anomalies that we have caught over volcanoes. I mean, that's where our bread and butter, you could say, comes from. So the most of the stuff that we just can't explain, that's where it's caught.
And Lee, you might want to explain your theory in that regard and why you think these craft are seen in and around these mountains, like Mount Adams, Mount Baker, Mount St. Helens, Rainier, and why they seem to almost sometimes disappear right into the mountain. You might want to explain that cool theory that you've got.
Well, so a theory that I have is that the magma obviously is moving under the earth, and I believe it gets into these magma chambers, and it sits there and rotates and spins and creates some sort of a magnetic field in those areas. And I think that the UFOs can use those magnetic fields probably to, traverse space and time, or however they get from one place to another. I think it's easier for them to use that, the energy that's in those locations to do so. So that's
Good
my
job.
theory.
Fascinating, yeah. And by the way, we'll be talking about Mount Baker probably sometime tonight during the broadcast. And Lee has some amazing footage, not only on Facebook at UFOiTeam, but on the UFOiTeam's YouTube channel as well, of craft seemingly disappearing into Mount Baker multiple times during the same evening. So tell her about that if you'd like.
Yeah, that's the nuttiest thing I've ever seen. There's from multiple directions lights that shoot into the mountain, like they're almost like shooting stars or something, but they actually come down towards the mountain, but from different angles. So it's not like the Leonid meteor shower or anything where you see shooting stars coming from one direction. These things are shooting into the mountain at different angles, and it's just incredible. One night we sat there, and I think we got like 13 of them on film, and then I put a montage together and put it up on our YouTube page. So that was crazy, yeah, to say the least.
Well, it's super cool that you are able to get that evidence. Like, a lot of people have issues doing that, and all they have is their encounter, basically. So for you to be able to get that and to share it with everyone, that's amazing. I've gotten pictures, but I haven't gotten video yet. So good on you for getting those. That's amazing. How do you think they get into the mountain? Do you think there's they have a space in there that's hollowed out? Do you think it's kind of some sort of warp thing that they can do to hide, or what's your theory on that?
Just like abduction, they're able to phase, and pull people out of their homes right through the wall. So I'm sure they can phase their craft to go into a mountain or go into the earth anywhere they want.
Yeah, it's super cool. And technology we probably won't understand for a very long time.
Probably not.
Well, that's awesome, and thank you so much for the work you guys do. And what are the sites for people that are listening right now where they can check it out and listen to us at the same time?
Yeah, if
Go ahead, Michael.
While we're talking tonight, people can always go to Facebook and punch in the UFOiTeam, and they can actually watch our broadcast tonight on UFOiTeam, because we're live streaming right now on Facebook. Our interview with Tessa, but also on the YouTube page, you just go to UFOiTeam on YouTube, and you will find some amazing video and stills that our group, mostly Lee Strauss and Ander, have collected over the years that are quite phantasmic. Matter of fact, we were talking a little bit earlier, just tonight, about a craft that they just saw that was kind of like powering down and then powering back up and fading in and fading out and finally just blinked out. We've got some of that on the YouTube channel from the Mount Adams area. One of them being an amazing part of the Mount Adams incident that we probably can chronicle as we get into the details of what the UFOiTeam experienced last August during a 6-day period of phenomenal activity.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, talking with Nikki, I heard several interesting and very intriguing stories about your guys' experience there. I'm kind of working my way up to it. You gotta work your way up to the really big gym. But what are one of the first cases that you guys had worked on together as Michael Hall and the UFOiTeam?
Well, I tell you what, I think probably one of our main big ones, which started quite a few years ago, was Mount Baker. We were just talking about currently some of our investigations have shown these interesting anomalies that seem to be disappearing craft going right into the mountain some way. But we also started going there for some of the other reported anomalies, for instance, floating orbs around Mount Baker, and a very interesting group of peaks up there called the Pleiades, believe it or not. There are a group of 7 mountains, like the Seven Sisters of the Pleiades, up there by Mount Baker that can be seen quite clearly from what they call Artist Point up there in the high foothills of Mount Baker. And you can see across the northern border to Canada from there. And the northern lights, when they dip down low enough, can be seen from up there as well. So I think Mount Baker was our first kind of like general area that we organized ourselves. And boy, I tell you, there is some anomalous behavior that we found up there while we're doing our investigations. Well, let me just tell you right off the bat real quick, and then we can go to some of them if you want. But we're talking these orbs that seem to conglomerate or hang around this one woman's log cabin. We call her the Orb Lady. Her name is Karen, and she lives up there in a place called Glacier Creek. And she is always taking video and still pictures of these strange, multicolored, different-shaped orbs that hang around her place. There is always UFOs that we see and capture on tape up there, mostly nights, very bright lights in the sky. But there's also a gentleman up there who literally captures a UFO craft in the daylight sky with a very inexpensive Nikon Coolpix video camera that he takes groups of like 1 and 2 minute videos and then downloads them into his laptop and reviews these videos of the Mount Baker area during the daytime, 1 frame at a time. And literally, he will find in a series of maybe 3 frames in a row, a craft that starts potentially in the bottom corner of the field of view. In the next frame, it's in the middle of the field of view, and in the 3rd frame, it's almost gone from the field of view. When he's filming 49 frames per second, and when you know the field of view and the distance that is this craft, that is very distinct, by the way, and very unique shapes, will go through that field of view in basically what's calculated to be about 20,000 miles an hour, so fast you can't even see it with your naked eye. And so he has been capturing these things for years up there in the daylight sky, believe it or not, going from the sky and into the water. There's a lake up there called Silver Lake that he's captured these things going through the water and then popping back out and going into the sky as well without leaving any splash while the thing enters or leaves the water. So those are kind of fantastic things that were going on up there as well, including, I'll just throw out one more and we can go on to something else or get into the details. There was a local Harley-Davidson biker guy coming home late at night, about midnight, into the small town of Glacier, Washington on his bike. And all of a sudden, he says, over the top of his head, from behind him, comes this large, glowing, he thought initially it was a triangle craft, like glowing orangish, yellowish, coming over the top of the tree level, so not much more than 80 feet or 100 feet high at the most, going right down in front of him down the highway, veering off to the left, and then hovering, he says, over the Nooksack River, which is going right through that area. He's startled and gets off his bike, stops the thing, and he realizes that this thing is actually a three-sided triangle or pyramid instead of a triangle. And it's a glowing object, and it lowers down these 3 tentacles, he says, of glowing light into the river and starts slurping water into the craft. And he says he was stone sober, and he was trying to find someone that could witness this whole sighting report with him, but there was no one around. It was in the middle of the mountains. And he basically came up with this story, stuck to it, and we actually got to interview the gentleman during a town hall meeting that we had up there at Mount Baker a couple of years ago on that sighting report. So there's all sorts of stuff going on in that neck of the woods. By the way, he says that eventually this thing ended by, at about 5 minutes later, the tentacles go up into the craft, and the craft starts slowly moving down the river, when all of a sudden 2 Black Hawk helicopters come out of the middle of nowhere, just flying down the valley floor, chasing this UFO, supposedly. And, of course, what happens, he says, is the UFO spanned a distance that he calculated was over 10 miles from where he was at the river to behind Mount Baker in 2 seconds. Totally left the helicopters behind, and the helicopters were in the dust there. So that's how that one ended. And it's just a fascinating story among many others in that area.
And we had a question in the chat room. UFO Buster was asking what shape they were.
Well, this one that we were just talking about with the Harley biker guy was a 3-sided triangle at the base and then going up to a pyramid. So a 3-sided pyramid, basically. And he says it was probably about 40 feet on either side of the triangle on the base, and maybe another 30 feet high. So maybe an isosceles kind of triangle pyramid.
That's awesome. And I'm just scanning here really quick to see if we had any others. And if you guys could, in the chat room, make sure that you put your questions or comments in caps so I don't miss them, because there's a lot going on in the chat room most times. I don't want to miss a thing.
Hey, Michael, do you want to tell her about the UFO that we were actually communicating with that would flash when we asked it to and change colors and stuff like that?
Oh, Lee, that would be wonderful. Yeah, because that was up at Artist Point. But I tell you what, Lee, get very close to your microphone because you're fading out a little bit there. And if you could take a lead on that. Yeah, there you go. That's much better. And take a lead on that that sighting up there at Mount Baker. That would be fascinating for everyone to hear.
Yeah, so this is one of our first experiences as the UFOiTeam. We went up there and met some local people and went up to Artist Point. And we were looking across directly at the Pleiades Mountains when Michael started to notice with his binoculars that there was some moving lights across there. And so then I went and trained our camera on that area, and the other people were seeing it as well with their naked eyes. And all of a sudden we just decided, okay, well, if you can listen to us, if you can hear us, go ahead and flash for us. And then they would flash. And then we asked them to change color, and they would change color. Then we'd say, okay, then turn red. We got more and more specific, and the darn thing would do it. And we had caught this on video. It's so crazy. It just still blows my mind away today. After everything else that we've seen, it's still, it must be the pinnacle of the peak.
Oh, there you are. Okay, you were cut off for about 10 seconds there, buddy. You have to back up for us.
Oh, I could hear him just fine. So when you were giving these directions or these orders to this aircraft or whatnot, were you saying it out loud? Were you giving direct orders? Like, how exactly were you guys doing that where it was able to understand and to do such?
Yeah, so we would just say it out loud. I mean, as a group, we were like, well, should we? And then we, chose. One person would say, let's have it change to green, or let's have it change to red. Let's have it flash. Let's have it move around, or whatever the case may be. And then the darn thing would do it. I mean, it's still, like I said, it still boggles my mind that there's some sort of communication that they're able to pick up on. I mean, just audibly. I don't know if it's through thought. It must be through thought. They must be able to pick up on our...
Like telepathically.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so
and by the
interesting.
And by the way, Tessa, this craft, this light, was much, much bigger than, for instance, even Mars or Venus. It was on the monitor that we were looking through it as well. It looked like quite a large donut-shaped light with a dark kind of portion in the middle. So I would say maybe even 20 times brighter than a Venus kind of a star. So this was something very unique in itself, just watching it. And it would hover over the Pleiades mountains, and it would move periodically, but it would not go away. It was not just a star that was slowly drifting with the rotation of the Earth. This was going in different directions. And on the videotape that Lee has, this thing is bouncing all over the place sometimes while it's turning colors like we were trying to, ask it to do. Is there any way that people could find that video, Lee, on our sites anywhere?
Yeah, it should be up on the UFOiTeam YouTube channel for sure.
Great.
Awesome. Well, on that note, you guys, we got to go to our first break. So you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Hey, guess what? You can now get your brand new Spaced Out Radio swag at spacedoutradio.com. We've brought the store back with all new items for you to pick out and pick up for yourself, your family, or friends. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, we got it all. All you have to do is head to our website and click on Store. Choose what you want and it's shipped to you. The Spaced Out Radio store is right there for you. Come shop with us at spacedoutradio.com. Then we can own the night together.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
If you're heading to Vancouver, make sure you stop by the official bar of Spaced Out Radio, the Moose Vancouver. It's the place to party in YVR. At the corner of Nelson and Granville, the Moose Vancouver is always up to speed with a kitchen staff that serves great food. All food on the menu, $6.95 to $8.95. There's a reason the Moose Vancouver is recognized as one of the hottest spots on the West Coast. Get your horns up for the Moose Vancouver. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You can follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT, on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to Spaced Out Weekend host, Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Hear the sound again, voices dancing in my head, smile wide, drowning slowly as the air goes round.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks so much for listening this evening. Tonight we are joined by Michael Hall and the UFOiTeam. Unfortunately, Miss Sue who had to leave us because she is a little sick right now, but we are still joined by Michael, Nikki, Lee, and Troy. Welcome back, guys. So great to have you.
Thank you, Tessa.
Hi, thank you.
So we left off
Well,
talking
good to be
about...
here.
Good to have you. And this is Lee, right? The soft-spoken Lee?
No, that's Troy.
that was
Troy. Okay.
The enlightened
Troy's the
millennial.
soft-spoken one.
There you go. Speak up, buddy.
Okay, so Troy's the soft-spoken one, and Lee's the really outgoing and oh man, what is the word for him? He's got a lot of energy, right?
Yeah, well, him
Adventurous.
and Ander are mountain men who actually climb these huge peaks with all the gear and set up on our sky watches. So we're going to get into that probably here in the second and third hour about concentrating, if we can, if you'd like, Tessa, on the Mount Adams incident.
I would love to hear more about that.
Well, I tell you what, I think I'll go with your lead here, Tessa, but if you would like me just to jump right in and kind of lay the groundwork on this remarkable event that happened to the UFOiTeam last August, that's August 2018, down at South Central Washington State, I can jump right in and do that for you.
Please do, and begin to paint that picture for us. And then I would love to hear from your other teammates as well as, because like you said, everybody has a different perspective on things. So for you to lay the groundwork for us would be a wonderful beginning to this story.
All right. Well, first of all, let me explain a little bit about East City Ranch. Down there in South Central Washington State, 14 miles south of Mount Adams, which is very close to the Oregon border, by the way, right in the central part of the state. And it is, what is that, Lee? Probably about 10,000 feet tall, that mountain?
Mount Adams is 12,400 and some odd feet.
Okay, good. Stay close to the mic here, buddy, and jump in whenever you can when I'm asking here so we can move this thing right along. So the 12,000-foot mount is totally snow-covered all year round. Isn't that right?
Yes, that is correct. Sorry, Michael. When we catch something, a lot of expletives shoot out of our mouths, so I often mute the phone here.
Thank you so much, because we are on some terrestrial stations as well. So thank you, gracias, for muting your expletives. But I understand where you're coming from.
All right.
Right.
So anyway, we have heard about East City Ranch. And if you haven't heard of that, that is where James Gilliland has owned this piece of property, like I said, 14 miles south of Mount Adams, down in South Central Washington State. For over 30 years, he's had East City Ranch, and he invites anybody from around the world to show up, camp out at the site, which is, I don't know if it's over 100 acres or not, but it's just a huge campground area and beautiful skywatch field, with Mount Adams looming in the entire foreground as you're down there. He has yurts, he has cabins, and camp spots. So we at the UFOiTeam decided to, after all of the sighting reports we've heard from people like on Coast to Coast AM, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black Radio, and George Norrie and George Knapp, and all the various people that James Gilliland has appeared on their radio shows about the various anomalies of UFOs, Bigfoot activity from the indigenous tribes in the area, we decided to make a trip down there. So in August of last year, we decided to set aside 6 whole days. Actually, it was August 24th. I think it was through the 29th, or no, it was even longer than that, the 31st. We decided to go to East City Ranch first, set up for sky watching, and then we were going to hook up with a film crew from Ambition Pictures called, and Philip and Timothy Wade are the co-producers, and Philip Wade is the director of Ambition Pictures. And they were going to film the UFOiTeam doing our investigations, kind of like live on the spot while we were there, and then follow us over north of the mountain to another site called Takalaka Lake, which is even closer to the mountain. Takalaka, yeah. It's spelled American Indian spelling, Taklakh is how it's spelled. Very close, by the way, to the small town of Trout Lake, Washington. And then, by the way, we decided that we were going to have a kind of like a three-prong approach to this filming, and then also send another group headed up by our intrepid cameramen, Lee Strauss and Philip Wade, the director, and a cameraman from Ambition Pictures to go to the top of the mountain, Mount Adams, at the same time. So we're in 3 different locations all around that area that summer, beautiful, warm summer days out there. Of course, the mountain is totally snow-covered all year round, and Lee Strauss can tell you his experience hovering up probably around 22 degrees in the snow at the top of the mountain, spending the night up there. But we started all showing up down there and getting all set up for the first night's sky watch, which basically was probably, I would imagine, 75 individuals from different parts around the world, literally different languages being spoken. We've got Asian people, we've got people from Australia, and all different countries who actually, some of them come there and volunteer at East City Ranch so that they can experience what's going on there. But others just come to camp out and spend a week, a couple days, or whatever they can afford. And we were there setting up all of our gear. Lee, if you're still there, why don't you just stop right there and just explain our setup that night with the gear out in the Skywatch field.
Well, so at that time I had, 4 separate tripods set up, not like the 2 that I use now, but and so I got everything set up, and it was like usual. I needed a couple hours to make sure that everything was working correctly. So,
Lee, you got to get closer.
Anomalies going on.
Yeah, Lee, get closer to your microphone.
I'm as close as I can get. My lips are almost touching the phone.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I don't know if Michael's stuff is cutting out, but I can hear what he's saying.
Okay, good.
All right, so like usual, there's a bug here or there. You get everything working finally, and I got it all set up, ready to go. And you look at the mountain from James Gillian's ranch. You look at it kind of from the southeast. So you're actually looking directly at the climber's route. A lot of people have to realize a lot of the lights that they see on the mountain from that location is where the road is that goes up to the climber's route, which goes up to, it's called Lunch Counter, then goes to the false summit, and then the summit. So a lot of the lights that you see at night are because the climbers from Lunch Counter get up like at 12 at midnight and then do their ascent to the top so that they can see the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of people think that that's, UFO activity. You just have to realize that that's what you're looking at when you're down there.
And Lee, you've summited Mount Adams before yourself as well?
Yes, twice now. And then went up, to Lunch Counter with the film crew.
All right.
So I've been up the mountain 3 times, summited twice.
And it is literally snow covered, right?
That is correct. You're putting crampons on. When you go to the false summit, you actually, depending on what time of year, you're going to have to use an ice axe just to get over that ridge.
Okay, I don't know if you...
There's one spot that might be a little technical, but other than that, that's it.
Okay, and you're talking crampons, snow axes, ice axes, that kind of thing?
Yes. Quite possibly using your ice axe, yes.
All right. Okay, just wanted to set the scene of what we're seeing the first night that we're there at East City Ranch, but literally people from all over the world, maybe 50, 75 people out in the Skywatch field pretty much every night. And, of course, people are out there in their lawn chairs, their gravity chairs, and just, as soon as it gets dark in the summertime around 10 o'clock, 10:30 or so, that's when the activity starts. And I'll tell you what, the things that come across that night sky are quite unique. I don't know if you've ever been to the ESETI YouTube channel, but there are orbs and there are very bright lights that come across the night sky. The first thing that we saw that was anomalous was off to our left-hand side of view. We saw, I think it was actually Ray Leo who initially saw something anomalous and pointed our attention to Ander Uristi, who had the laser pointer. And off to the left, low enough to be below a 2,000 foot level, kind of wispy cloud level, was the brightest, largest white light that we had seen. Kind of coming across not as a solid light, but kind of a growing and then fading. Kind of like, glowing up, powering up, and then coming down again. When Lee Strauss put all the cameras that he had on the structure. Matter of fact, Lee, why don't you explain what you saw when you first decided to get the cameras onto this thing?
Well, so I saw it flash, okay. I thought it was a plane at first, okay. So I didn't really train my stuff on it right away. I started to do my count, I want to make sure that this thing is flashing in an interval like a plane would. So I start my count. I see it flash and I count 1, 2, 3, 4. It flashed again. 1, 2, 3, 4. It flashed again. So I said, oh, it's just a plane. And then it started flashing a little bit more erratically. Not just flashing erratically, but then also what you would call flaring up. So at that point, I swung my cameras around and got a bead on the darn thing. Actually, it was my Luna 60, which is my favorite camera, which I got on it and started recording right away. And as that thing traveled across the sky, there was clouds, and this thing was actually in the clouds, in front of the clouds. You could see that in the video. And it did some I don't even know how to describe it, but almost like laser beam pulses that came down at where we were all sitting, where other people were shooting lasers at it. So it was almost responding to the people that were shining lasers at it. And one of those beams hit directly in my camera, directly into came through the screen, and it actually gave me a headache. I get migraines once in a while, and it was an instantaneous migraine. It was probably the brightest flash that I've ever seen. It was like looking at an arc welding light.
So do you think you got a... Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. I was just wondering, do you think you got the migraine due to the intense light against your eyes and your retina and whatnot? Or do you think it was, if it was close enough, something more like radiation? Kind of thinking maybe the bright light.
I couldn't tell you what it, but it was instantaneous, like, oh my gosh, I got a migraine. It sounds funny, but it was just like that. Mm-hmm. After that flash, and everybody saw it. I mean, it was, you could hear the whole crowd just going, wow, it was just unbelievable. It was like a pinpoint laser beam coming down that people from other parts of the field saw too. It was crazy.
Well, and Tessa, let me explain a little bit more in detail here what Lee just kind of like glossed over, really, because this thing was so large and unusual that we couldn't believe how bright it flared up and then how it powered back down. And it's moving from our left to our right. And when it gets, at probably about 75 degrees in the night sky from our location, and when it gets right in front of our field of view, almost directly in line with Mount Adams and our gear there, which Lee has set up 3 different tripods with all of the cameras and the monitors on there. And like we've mentioned before, he is night blind to the actual events that are going on because he's watching the very bright monitors at the same time. So when it gets right in front of us at about a 75-degree angle, this giant flare-up happens that is just like a brilliant flash. We think the thing is almost blown up, but in reality, it was just a huge, basically laser hit, came right into the cameras that we had set up on the tripods. And of course, Lee Strauss is sitting there glued to the monitors, and all of a sudden it gets whacked with this major, flare-up.
I got something for you.
Oh, you got to mute your phones, you guys, so we don't get that background noise. And then what happened was there were a group of skywatchers on the very right of our skywatch field, probably about 75 yards away, who had a different angle of the same event. They're watching this thing flare up and power down, flare up and power down, and all of a sudden they said this blue laser beam comes out of the thing at an angle, because they're seeing it at a 90-degree angle, and it says those folks said it shot right at our skywatch gear. And so, we often wonder whether that was just a response. It's kind of like basically a CE5, where, human beings can elicit responses from unidentified craft. That happens all the time. But also, it could have been some kind of a communication in that laser jet or laser kind of light as well. So who knows what that was. Obviously, it was strong enough to cause an instant migraine in our camera.
So we had a question in the chat room, and they were asking, did anyone else get a headache from the sighting, or was it just...
not that I recall. Basically, Lee was the one that took the brunt of the thing, because he was standing right there looking into, as close as he could, obviously, to get the detail of the monitors. So that's all I heard. Anybody else on the team hear of anyone else responding with any kind of reaction to that laser beam?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I think
Go ahead,
Lee
Nikki.
was the
No, I
only
think I
one
was the
that got it.
unlucky victim.
Huh.
Yep. That's what I kept hearing.
As a matter of fact, Lee, you might want to mention what you saw. It was either before or after that event when this massive orb zips right by your head as well. That was a fascinating part of that night.
I almost forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So this was a while later, maybe, 10 minutes after that sighting. So I'm sitting there, looking for something else to pop up, and all of a sudden this, just this thing out of the corner of my eye zips by my head. And it was like I could almost feel the wind as it passed by, and I was like, what the heck was that? It's just a strange oddity. I have no explanation.
Well, just to kind of describe for our listeners here, you mentioned it was about the size of a softball and white, and it just kind of caught in the peripheral vision of yourself?
Yeah, I don't have an explanation. It just zipped by me like you would see if you were standing on a corner and somebody went by on a bicycle or something like that. It was it was moving at a pretty good clip. Just caught it out of the corner of my eye, and I even turned my head as it kind of went by, but I mostly saw it out of my peripheral, not straight on him.
And I remember at the time being there, hearing you say, "Whoa, did you see that?"
Yeah.
And I didn't see it, but it obviously struck you as something that was quite real at the time.
Yeah, I would say it was quite real. I just don't know. I mean, I'm not all familiar with the orb phenomenon, so I really don't have a basis for it, unfortunately.
And of course, the East City Ranch is famous for literally fields of orbs being recorded and filmed out there. As a matter of fact, Lee, if you have an opportunity to put Ander Uristi on the phone, he can tell us about the E-City Ranch orbs that he experienced down there himself.
Hi, I'm here.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, I'm back. So yes, my experience with the orbs at E-City was a very meaningful one because I felt that's where I had my spiritual awakening. My first time there, I remember I was by myself. I was supposed to meet up with the Supon group, but I wasn't able to find anyone because it was dark. So I just kind of hung out by myself, and this older woman came up to me, and she asked me if I've seen the orbs, and I wasn't sure if she meant like a craft or what. I'd never heard of orbs before. So, yeah, she comes over, she gives me these night vision goggles, and she had like this, looked like a radar type gun, and I asked her what it was, and she said it was like infrared. I was like, okay. She says, okay, I'm going to point this out to the field, put on the goggles, and tell me what you see. And I was like, all right, this is going to get interesting. Let's see what happens. So I put them on, I start looking around the night watch area, and I didn't see anything for a while. In fact, after a while, I was like, is this lady crazy? So, and then finally, out of nowhere, this ball appeared, and it was like to the far left. And I told her, I'm like, hey, I see something. And she was like, okay, well, let's get some more out. So she had these people dance and sing, and more orbs came out because she said like they liked the energy. And they started forming almost like a double helix. Like it was just a whole bunch of them grouped together, making these weird formations. And you could tell that each one was like its own individual entity because it would move around. Like it was curious. Like there were curious ones. They'd come in and look around, and then they'd get bored, walk away, or move away. It was just interesting to see the way they would behave and move.
Yeah, kind of like intelligent movement and synchronization, so on and so forth.
Well, in a way, yes. It was interesting because when they wanted to be together, they could, and when they wanted to be independent, they would move away on their own. So it was very interesting.
So do you have an idea of what these alien orbs are? I've seen alien craft and I've seen alien orbs, and I've actually gotten pictures of both. And I kind of get the feeling that the orbs are kind of like spy craft. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm I have as many questions as you. I mean, I'm not sure. To me, it was more of like the way it was told to me, it was more like a spiritual thing. Like these are entities, disembodied entities. That's kind of what I got from it. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I was only observing.
There are two different types of orbs. So far as I know, like there could be more types of orbs out there, but the ones I'm aware of are the spiritual orbs and the alien orbs. And I've seen both. The spiritual orbs seem a bit smaller than the alien orbs that I've witnessed. So I can see what you're saying with the spiritual realm of it. That could be more of a spiritual thing than an alien thing, right?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, that's right.
Mm-hmm. I think we should, Michael, move on and get through it. The story is so long that we need to get through it.
Yeah, let's move on just to one more aspect of the E-City Ranch was that next morning we were privileged enough to hang out with James Gilliland himself, who showed us a massive Bigfoot casted footprint that he had that he says was casted in the Skywatch field that we were at the night before, only a few days before we got to E-City Ranch. And this was a major, he says it was like a juvenile Bigfoot, but I'm telling you, this thing was at least 15 inches long, probably 8 inches wide. And he says that these things are casted in that area all the time. And he says that the indigenous tribes and Native Americans in that area have said that these Bigfoot creatures are basically roaming all over that area down by Mount Adams. So that was a fascinating 2 days that we spent right there at E-City Ranch. And then we decided, well, now is the time to send a group up the mountain, which was Lee Strauss and Philip Wade, the director of Ambition Pictures, and their young cameraman as well, up to the top of the mountain, while the rest of us, or most of us, ended up going to the north side of the mountain at Takalak Lake, where is a beautiful, pristine lake that reflects the entire mountain in the lake itself on a beautiful, non-windy day in August. And there's a campsite there, a campground area that actually has a hostess woman who takes care of the place during the summer months there in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest. And two of our UFOiTeam members knew this hostess woman, and that's how we hooked up at Takalak Lake and getting reservations there, which was probably about maybe 50 campsites, a few other people on the lake, but a beautiful view from 7 miles away, closer of the other side of the mountain. The first thing that we do when we get there is everyone, hovers around the campsite there and has all of our vehicles that we travel in. And I think probably the first thing that happened was it started to rain that night. I think it was like a Sunday night when we all arrived finally, or Sunday, to Takalak Lake. And because...
Oh, we just lost Michael. We lost him. Michael, where'd you go?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh.
Well, I can talk about Takalak Lake some if Michael's not here.
Okay, yeah, carry on.
Okay, so this is Troy. I will do my best to speak up. I'm on earbuds, and you should be able to hear me. But, we traveled to Takalak Lake. That was August 26th, I believe. And it was a little bit rainy, not super rainy, but a little bit misting and sort of light rain. So right when we got there, the rain started to pick up a little bit when our group got there. And then we were setting up our tents. We met up with Kevin Beagle, who brought a bunch of gadgets, and thankfully he had a pop-up canopy that he let us use for the group so that we could keep our gear dry outside. So we got there and pretty much just talked around a table with electric lanterns that night. We talked with the camp hostess who was telling us about Sasquatch, the Sasquatch beings that she has experienced and knew of. And we had some interesting things to hear about that night. But I would say the bulk of the interesting stuff that happened started the next night, at least that we know of. That night of August 26th, though, one of the car batteries of one of our team members happened to die, and then she had to get it restarted because Scotty, who was able to jumpstart the engine, was able to get her car started, but then she left. That was Mary. And so it was August 27th through the 29th or so that was the bulk of the incident. And August 27th was our Skywatch that night of August 27th. We set up by the shore of Lake Takalak. We found this nice little day-use camping area that we were able to use and got permission to use. And there was this nice picnic table and nice wide open area where we were able to set up a number of chairs, fold-out camping chairs and gravity chairs. I happened to set up the closest to the tree line that was farthest away from the entrance of this little area off of the trail. And I was about 15 to 20 feet away from the tree line, the beginning of the thick woods. And let me tell you, the woods around Taklock Lake and generally around the Mount Adams area are fairly thick, where there's no civilization or roads. And so this campground had some cleared out campsite areas people could rent. However, there were no campsites near where we were doing the Skywatch.
Okay, this is Michael. I'm back, I think.
Welcome back.
Hey, Michael. Welcome back.
Okay, well, I don't know where I got
right.
cut off, but what I thought I was going to try to do is bring in Troy Bacon to tell us about the cryptid Bigfoot activity there during our Skywatch that night.
That's
Well, you
what's
came
going
at the
on.
perfect moment because I was just about to get into that.
Troy, I've got a
took over
question
talking
for you.
about- Yeah.
How thick were those trees? Is it something to where if you walk, say, 10 feet in, you're going to be completely lost? Or is it where, and you won't be seen from where you started? Or is the tree area a little thinner than that?
I would
Make
say
sense?
it's about what you just described, Nikki.
Okay.
I remember when I was first driving up into that area near the Taklock Lake campsite, I saw the trees and the thick woods near the roads much like just different than any other woods I've been in or near. And these trees were covered in lichen, not just had lichen on them, but it was like they were wearing coats of lichen, which of course is a sign of really good air quality, so that was good. But I also had the thought as soon as I got there that that environment would be a great living place for the master of the woods that nobody is ever able to catch or catch up to, Sasquatch. And I think that's exactly what we happen to hear at the Skywatch. So we started hearing noises at the Skywatch. And yeah, these woods are fairly thick. In the daylight, you might be able to see maybe 20-ish feet in if someone's in there. You'd have to look a little bit. There are a lot of branches, a lot of leaves, certainly branches and twigs on the ground, so it's not easy for a human to walk in there without stepping on branches and making noise. At least not this area by the Skywatch site we were at. We started hearing stick break and tree knock sounds. And overall, I got the impression that I was hearing the most of the sounds out of any of the group members because I was closest to them. However, the whole group was able to hear all of the louder, more dramatic sounds. And these sounds, there was nothing verbal sounding about it, but it sounded a lot like, first I thought it was an animal rustling in the bushes and trees. However, that couldn't be because it was not an animal coming toward us or moving away from us like most wild animals would do, either move toward or away from humans. And as far as I was aware, there were no large, dangerous animals in that area that would come near us. But this thing was staying in one place, and the sound sounded like something of a significant size hitting rocks against trees, picking up good-sized tree branches, banging them against trees, or even breaking the tree branches. And it wasn't constant, but it was like every minute or a few minutes, and some of the sounds, I swear, did correspond with some of the comments and subjects that the UFOiTeam there was talking about while we were doing the Skywatch. So it seemed to be aware of the things we were saying.
It was a strange night because in reality we didn't see very many anomalous craft or activity in the night sky, but we were constantly kind of having an ear off to our left in our Skywatch chairs, hearing this rustle and very large diameter sticks breaking, as if something really large was stepping on these areas, and then these tree knocks as well, which were very distinct. And that was kind of keeping our attention most of the night. It's very possible, we kind of surmised afterwards, that this might have been either potentially a juvenile Sasquatch or Bigfoot that was just kind of like liking to hang around and finding out what we were doing, kind of curious, basically, because it didn't go away until we decided, basically around midnight, we decided we've seen enough for the evening. This, whatever noise it is kind of dying down, so we're going to go back to the campsite at that point. Anything else you want to add, Troy, before we get back to the campsite?
Not a lot. I've covered pretty much the main thing about the noises there. And then it was after a couple of hours of doing the Skywatch, we all got cold and we weren't seeing a lot, so then we moved up to back to our campsite and started a fire. But then that's where things actually got interesting.
Yes, that's where it starts to really heat up. And we've got, I guess, Tessa, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, about 20 minutes, 19, 18 minutes here before the break. So I think what we'll do is jump right into the bulk of the activity at Takalaka Lake at this point, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we have about 15 minutes.
Oh, wonderful. We'll get started here. So at about midnight, we all pack up our gear and, our numb fingers and decide to get back to the main campsite there, which is, far enough you could actually take a while to walk there, but most of us drove our vehicles down the road so we could jump back in the cars and go back and basically start, the evening around the campfire. It's kind of one of our debriefing times that we get together at the end of a long day, a nice big bonfire campfire where we're warming up, having the hot coffee, whatever food we brought along with us that we wanted to munch on that night. And I'll set the scene around the campfire. We had basically Troy Bacon. We had Kevin Beagle and his wife, Samara. We had Ray Leo, myself for a period of time. Dan Weiss, who is the executive producer of Ambition Pictures, was there. And his son, one of the cameramen for Ambition Pictures, Josh, was there as well. And we had, we even had Scotty, our engineer, retired Boeing engineer, there with us as well. So we had all these people around the campfire for the beginning of the evening. And then basically that night I decided to turn in a little bit early because I sleep with a CPAP machine, continuous positive airflow machine, because of my sleep apnea. And I tell you what, if I don't get a pretty decent night's sleep with my CPAP machine, I'm not going to be good for much the next day. So I decided about 12:30 or 1 to pack it in. And Kevin and I was lucky enough to be invited to spend the night at Kevin's and Samara's pop-up trailer, because they had a massive battery system that they set up that was quite adequate for me to be able to set up my CPAP machine and get a good night's sleep, because we didn't have that luxury at some of the parts of East City Ranch there. So at about 1 o'clock, we head off, and of course Troy and Sam and Ray and Mr. Weiss and his son are still around the campfire there. And basically, the whole idea is that the guys around the campfire, I think, Troy, I'll throw it to you to describe, basically what was going on around the campfire after we left, about what you guys saw around the area. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, so after a while, well, not too long, Scotty left, and Dan and his son Josh of Ambition Pictures left the fire to go retire in their car, go to sleep in their car, because they brought a tent, but it turned out to have holes in it and developed puddles on the inside. So they were sleeping in their car, which might actually be a significant part of the story we can talk about, I think, next hour when we have more time. But it was myself, Sam, and Ray. 3 of us left at the campfire after about 1:30 or so in a.m. And so Sam was on my left, Ray was on my right, and at one moment, Sam and I just happened to look up, or kind of be looking up, enough to see a dark, shadowy figure move. It was fairly quick, just less than a second, move from right to left in our field of vision. Little ways away, maybe 50 feet away. We think it was actually in the space of an adjacent campsite that was unoccupied that night. However, another family did happen to roll in the next morning with a camper trailer. And Sam saw the silhouette, she says, fairly clearly. I kind of saw that, but most of what I saw was the actual shadow it was casting on the ground in the bright moonlight that was shining through the trees, because the moon was just a few days after a full moon, so it was mostly full and still fairly bright, casting a lot of light in the dark forest. And so that's what caught my attention. It was definitely a fairly tall, humanoid-type creature, silent, and Sam says it looked like a Sasquatch. And based on one of the camper trailers that rolled in the next day, Sam estimates it might have even been around 9 to 10 feet tall, approximately, but we are not entirely sure.
Wow.
And around 2:45-ish, 2:44, 2:45, looked at my phone right when we were leaving the campfire. We kind of disbanded kind of suddenly all at once, but we were all getting tired after talking for hours. So we left the campfire. I brushed my teeth and got ready for bed. I noticed that the forest was eerily silent, like I couldn't hear anything, not even insects. It was very dark, and then about a few seconds, just moments after I had laid my head down to rest in my tent, I started hearing noises outside my tent. So these noises were like rhythmic footstep sounds, and it was like a like someone digging the toe and front part of their foot into the dirt, the forest floor near my tent, repeatedly in a rhythmic pattern. That's the best I can describe that. And this went on for quite a while as I was listening to it. I had my eyes open. I was looking straight up, trying to see if I could see any lights or shadows cast onto my tent. I could not see anything, any evidence of anything moving outside my tent, except I was hearing this. And this went on for at least 20 minutes or more, quite a while as I was laying there. But with my eyes open, I also was seeing little colorful sparkles of light that were just sort of popping in and out. They were within my tent, near the top of my tent, but not something that was being cast from outside my tent, definitely. And I hadn't seen spirit lights like that before, but it was definitely some sort of spirit lights, and I eventually fell asleep. And I've recovered some of my memories from that night, which I could get into next hour. It gets complicated, but that was the beginning of my very close Sasquatch experience at the Taklak Lake campsite. One quick thing, the next day I happened to find a patch of dirt near my tent that I have pictures of, and it definitely appeared to me, certainly disturbed, and it appeared to me that there were partial footprints, large footprints too, in the dirt, and it looked as though someone with large feet was dancing barefoot on the forest floor.
That's awesome.
And that's just the beginning of that night. I'll tell you what. So this is about back at the ranch here, inside the pop-up trailer, where I am setting up for the evening at about 1 o'clock in the morning. I decided to hook up my CPAP machine and get all ready for the evening. And Kevin is telling me everything's all set. Looks like your CPAP's going to work. So we both try to get some good sleep. And about at 1:30, I think, or 1:15, we both just drift off into a blissful rest. And I'm really feeling good because I get to sleep all night with my CPAP machine, feel refreshed in the morning. When all of a sudden, this is when things started happening big time all over the area. At about 3:30 in the morning, all of a sudden my CPAP machine stops working. For some reason, I'm looking at the thing and I've noticed, well, you'll notice when your CPAP machine stopped working because the positive airflow that you normally sleep with just stops. So it wakes you up. Yeah. And basically I'm just noticing, oh my gosh, looks like the battery died. So basically I'm probably not going to get any more rest. I look at my watch and I notice that it's glowing quite brightly on my, the little watch face that I have, and it says 3:30, and I decided, well, I might as well get up and go to the bathroom anyway, and get ready to come back and spend a restless night sleeping without my CPAP. And when I get up, I wake up Kevin Beagle, who is my mate there in his pop-up trailer, and he goes, oh, what happened? What time is it? I said, oh, it looks like the CPAP machine or the battery died. CPAP machine quit, so I'm going to go to the restroom and I'll be right back. And he says, well, what time is it? And I said, oh, it's 3:30. He says, oh, okay. Well, by the time you get back, he tells me, I will switch over to another battery so you can continue on sleeping tonight. I'm going, oh, great, fantastic. So I go out, and literally right there around the corner from the pop-up trailer, he set up a little latrine, basically, with a little tent and a porta potty, and it only takes me 2 minutes at the most, maybe go really quickly. Number one, I'm just going to come right back and really relish sleeping again. When I get back to the pop-up trailer inside, I'm a little surprised to find that Kevin is fast asleep again. And I'm noticing that my CPAP machine power light is on, so obviously he switched it over. And I'm going, wow, okay. He switched it over right away and fell right back to sleep. So I get into bed, and as I'm wrestling, to get settled for the evening, Kevin wakes up again and goes, oh, he says, what time is it? Almost like from a groggy sleep, he says that. And I said, oh, I looked at my watch, and I'm going, oh my gosh, it's It's 4:30. And he goes, oh. And so we both go back to sleep. In the morning, I know we're getting close to the break, so I'll cut this one as close as you need here. But in the morning, we all wake up and find out that Mr. Weiss and his son, their car battery died. He says about 3 in the morning, because he shows me the clock in his car that stopped at that period of time. And Kevin and myself are sitting around the campfire with our morning coffee, and Kevin starts saying, "What time did you say you got back from the trailer, going to the bathroom last night?" I said, 4:30. And he goes, "That's what I thought you said. Wasn't it 3:30 when you left? How long did it take you to go to the bathroom?" The whole thing is starting to get really strange for us. And we realize that there is at least some missing time there that we can't account for that night. And how long do we have to go here, Tessa, before the break? And I can make a break here or go a little bit farther before we get off.
We have 1 minute and 35 seconds and counting.
Okay, wonderful. Then I'll just quickly say that night also, Kevin Beagle had set up a game cam on a tree right there at the edge of the forest, in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, because he's a cryptid and a Bigfoot expert himself, and he likes to set up things to see if he can catch any activity in the forest at night. When he woke up in the morning before he came to the campfire, he told us that his game cam was not only opened up, but it was turned off for some reason in the middle of the night. And that was the same. So that was the same night that something weird was going on in multiple places, and we haven't even talked about what happened on top of the mountain yet either as well. So we've got a lot more fun things to talk about, and we're going to get into the details in the final hour.
That's right.
And a lot more evidence.
For sure. And like I was saying, the story I was hearing from Nikki, I was like, holy shnikes, you gotta be kidding me. But I used other words that I can't use here right now. But we are going to go to break here in about T-minus 20 seconds. So you want to kind of give us a heads up where we're heading shortly after the break? No? That's okay. So anyone, if you have any questions or comments in our chat rooms, make sure you're putting it in caps. That way I know where exactly the questions and comments are. And you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology: Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Sit back, relax,
grab a drink, and listen closely. Spaced Out Radio continues through the weekend. From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Weekend with Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bumblefoot in the house. And I just have to thank Bumblefoot really quick. I'm like, thank you so much for allowing us to play your music and being basically our music sponsor. And I'm so grateful that, Mr. Bumblefoot, if you send me your address, I will be more than happy to send you a thank you card. So thank you again, Bumblefoot, for, sharing your music. And thanks again to the UFOiTeam and Mr. Michael Hall for being on and telling their story. And we're about to summit this mountain, and all these different things of information are about to unfold, and it's just mind-blowing. Welcome back, you guys. It's so great to have you.
Thank you, Tessa. We are really having a fun time, a paranormal party tonight.
Woot woot.
Yep, that's true.
Well, I've really enjoyed having you guys on and just hearing your different perspectives and the different things that are going on for everybody. And I can't believe, on the break we're talking about this, and I'm like, the mountain of evidence that you have is basically reaching to outer space. This is an amazing amount of evidence for one freaking case. So I'm going to let you guys carry the torch and carry on with this story wherever you may go, because I was not involved.
Okay, well, we are.
Thank you, Tessa.
I think where we left off, we were at about, we're the next morning, and all of a sudden we started talking around the campfire over our camp coffee there about there was some strange things going on last night. And one of the first things that we realized is that there seems to be an hour of time between 3:30 and 4:30 in the morning that doesn't seem to fit in with the time frame that it took me to go out and go number one and come back into the pop-up trailer. So what I remembered about my CPAP machine is that thing is actually a pretty high-powered computer itself, and it records every single thing that goes on in the middle of the night. So I realized that if I went to my machine itself and pressed the sleep report, it'll tell me basically how long I slept, what the quality of sleep I had, and if any strange anomalies occurred, for instance, how many times I took my mask off in the middle of the night, and various kinds of information that gets printed out into the memory of the machine. When I did that, I found out that the machine itself only recorded that I used it that night for an hour and 50 minutes, less than 2 hours. So I got to thinking, and Kevin was kind of corroborating the math with me, that if we got to sleep around 1:30, for instance, and all of a sudden I wake up at 3:30, that's about 2 hours. So if indeed the machine is correct, that's very unusual that I only use that machine to an hour and 50 minutes, less than 2 hours, because I thought I went back to sleep and used it the rest of the night. Now, when I went home and printed out the whole week of activity on a graph, basically from my CPAP machine, it shows that I slept like 8 hours, 7 hours, the week before and the week after. In that one night at Takalak Lake, only an hour and 50 minutes, which was weird in itself, but that also corresponds to some interesting timing that happened on top of the mountain on Mount Adams that Lee Strauss was a part of with Philip Wade and their young cameraman sleeping overnight at the pinnacle of the mountain. And Lee, if you're still there, maybe you want to take over what happened to you guys at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Actually, so we were up there at lunch counter. We didn't sleep up at the very top of the mountain. This is probably around 9,800 feet or so, somewhere in there. And there's these rock walls that people have built up there on the lunch counter to put their tents in because of the winds. And they're probably, chest height, I would say. So you get your tent, it's all set up in there, and then the wind isn't buffering your tent all night long. So we're asleep. Philip, Wade, and the camera guy in one tent, and me in my tent. And then the camera guy wakes up, apparently, in the middle of the night, I think around 3 o'clock or whatever, and says that he saw a light, shining on the tent from above. And if it was a climber, you wouldn't see that light anyway because of how high these walls are, the lava rock walls are. So we surmised that there must have been something over the tents shining a light down. And he looks at his watch and he goes back to sleep. I mean, come on. We're up there to catch this kind of stuff. And he just goes back to sleep. So in the morning, Philip Wade's back was hurting him, and pulled up his shirt, and we noticed it looked like a puncture wound in the center of his back, right on his spine. So that was extremely odd, and it brought memories back of what happened to me with a similar wound in the back of my neck. So that's exactly what I thought is, well, he's, sounds like he got abducted that night. So,
well, at least
sounds
for sure,
like
at
that's
least
what happened down below too.
And at least for sure, we know that this light was very anomalous, waking the young camera guy up at 3 a.m. He's noticing this thing very brightly on the top of his tent. He takes a look at his watch that it's 3 o'clock, and for some reason he goes right back to sleep and doesn't tell anybody, you or Philip, what he's seeing. And then that anomalous thing happens to Philip's lower spine during the night. So that was fantastic. At about the same time that things were going on.
Wait 1 second. I've got a question, Michael.
Yeah.
I've got a question for Lee. Lee, did you have you since then remembered anything that you may have been taken? Or
not that night, no.
Not that night. Okay. That's what I want to know.
Not
Thank you.
from that night.
Continue, Mike.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, to correspond back at the campsite with 3 a.m, let's go to Troy Bacon again. And Troy, you can tell us a little bit about what was going on with some of the vehicles in the campsite at that same time, about 3 a.m.
Yeah, so as I had mentioned earlier, I left the campfire that I was sitting at with Sam and Ray at around 2:44, 45-ish in the morning. I looked at my phone right when we left. I got ready for bed. I estimate I was probably in my tent ready to go to bed and lay down around 3 a.m.-ish. And so at one point when I was in my tent, I heard someone trying to start one of the engines or ignitions of one of the vehicles within the UFOiTeam campsite that a number of us were staying at. And I thought that was very bizarre that one of us would be trying to start a car engine at 3 a.m. But at the same time, I guess it's weird now that I'm thinking of it because I also didn't seem to make a big deal of it. And there didn't seem to be a big deal, so I just went to sleep. But I remember the distinct noise of a car engine trying to start, but it wouldn't, right probably around 3 a.m. And then a minute or two later, I heard that same car engine actually starting. Like the first time, the car wouldn't work, it wouldn't turn on. That's also exactly pretty much exactly how Dan Weiss described that incident the next morning when we were talking about the strangeness that seemed to be evident that occurred. And Dan said that his car battery had died. His car wouldn't start. The clock and the time and date on the computer screen on his car, it was a 2-year-old car, by the way. It should not have died. The battery should not have died. And he said the time and date were blank, and his car just wouldn't start. But then it did a minute or two later. And so then we got into investigating Dan's car, and through testing it with magnetic compasses and different readings and seeing how our compasses react around it, it was concluded largely by Kevin Beagle and I believe Scotty were the 2 or so people who came to the main conclusion. But they concluded the skin of the car had been turned into a bar magnet with positive at one end and negative at the other.
Well, let's lead up to that, by the way, and how we even got to that point of trying to test this vehicle. Basically, in the middle of the night, we find out in the morning that multiple other cars, not just the UFOiTeam cars, car batteries died that night. Matter of fact, the camp hostess came by in the morning and told us that, funny thing is, we had about 3 or 4 other campers come up to me this morning and tell me that their car batteries died last night. And we kind of pinpointed they all seem to have died around 3 o'clock in the morning for some reason. And then some of them started right up again in the morning without, having to be jumped as well. But while we're sitting around the campsite and the car that Mr. Weiss was driving had a problem, we decided that, maybe there's some weird magnetic anomalies around this area that we need to figure out if that has anything to do with, car batteries dying or whether we're talking about anomalous aerial activity. So we decided to take all the compasses we could find in the group. I think there was about 4 of us, and Scotty ended up being one of the digital compasses that he brought along, being an engineer. And I had a basic Boy Scout compass and some others as well. I think Troy had one. We decided to get our positions up in 4 different places around the campsite. And at the count of 3, I said, everybody point in the direction that your compass says is north. On the count of 3, we did it, and everybody is pointing in a different direction, showing that there's some major anomalous magnetic activity in this area. So initially we thought, well, this may be just the problem of the campsite area. So what we did is we moved Dan Weiss's car, thinking that, well, maybe Dan Weiss's car is really over some kind of magnetic anomaly, and if we get it out of the way, it'll be back to normal. So we moved the car, and sure enough, it didn't make any difference. Wherever we moved Dan Weiss's car, when we took a compass and walked around his car, basically we found out, just like Troy was mentioning, that the front part of his vehicle was one polarity. The rear end of his vehicle was the opposite polarity, as if it was a bar magnet, because a bar magnet has a positive and a negative end, and it's very distinct. He said basically he took this car later on back to the dealership where he leased it, because it was only, like Troy was saying, a 2-year-old leased car, and tested it at the dealership and showed the dealer what was going on, and the dealer was totally puzzled. They tested the same make and model vehicle at the dealership that he leased, and there was not any of that magnetic anomaly on that car, as well as other vehicles that they tested on the lot. So basically, the the dealership said, the fact that this electronic, digital clock was totally blank and reset back to nothing shows that there was some kind of a massive electrical interface problem with the vehicle that night. So that was weird. And we decided basically that we needed to follow up on all these strange events that were going on that night. I basically forgot to mention that in the middle of the night when I woke up at 3:30 in the morning because my CPAP machine died, I looked at my normal analog watch that I wear all night long. It was under the covers all night long, but when I woke up, all of a sudden I looked at my watch and it was totally glowing with the fluorescence that it has, when you put it underneath a lamp or a light source, or it's out in the sun and then you take it into a dark room. But that fluorescence only lasts maybe 15 minutes, normally. But I was surprised to see that my watch was totally glowing very brightly when I woke up at 3:30 in the morning, even though my arms and watch were underneath the covers all night, only in my sleeping bag. So that was a strange anomaly as well. And of course, at the top of the mountain, we've got that strange weirdness going on at 3 in the morning. And then back down at the lake, Kakalaka Lake Campground, we have this strange activity going on as well. Basically, that's kind of some of the scenarios that we're dealing with when we tried to figure out what happened that night and how many things could have possibly happened at the same time in a short period of time to create all these weird anomalies that we experienced back then. Now, I think all of us are going to, maybe Nikki should jump in at this point and mention what happened after we got back and some of the hits that she got about her intuitive feelings of what happened to the UFOiTeam there as well.
Hello. About half the team came back and started talking during one of our, I believe it was one of our Wednesday night meetings. This was when we had changed our meeting days. And a couple of the members were talking about what had taken place. And I started getting hits, like vision hits of things that I had never seen in my life before. And it kind of started freaking me out. And it took me a few minutes to be able to kind of digest everything that I had seen in these visions. And they didn't stop. I mean, I was having one after another, and then I finally said something to somebody and said, hey, we need to stop a second. I need to talk to you guys because this is what I'm getting. And the impression, well, it wasn't just the impression. They were actual visions of inside alien ships and the gut feelings and deep impressions in my body that my team members had been, if I remember correctly, the quote, and please tell me if I'm wrong, Troy, the quote to Troy was, you went up. And I remember him looking at me going, that is correct, okay. Saying, what do you mean I went up? And I was trying to avoid saying, you went into an alien ship. Because I couldn't accept it myself, and let alone acknowledge that to myself. And so then I remember describing different things that I had seen, different sensations that I was feeling, and there were a number of the team members that were there that were like, wait a minute, we need to have a conference about this, basically, and that's what we did. Some team members had left and others of us had stayed, and we ended up talking. and really getting into the meat of some of this. And then we were like, okay, are we going to have a conversation with the rest of the team, because some of them are not back yet? And how do we approach certain individuals, because this is kind of a big deal. And I was concerned because I had seen images of Troy, I had seen images of Michael, and my impression, well, it wasn't just an impression, it was like my entire body felt it. And it's been a long time since I've had visions where it affects my entire body. And I remember saying to the group, look, it wasn't just you guys. It was also a number of individuals who were at ESETI that were taken as well. And that's when I kind of started losing it, because I was having a hard time accepting this. And don't get me wrong, because I understand people have been abductees, and I take that at face value. But because people have gone through some really horrible experiences. And this just wigged me out in a whole different manner. And so then Troy started asking me lots of questions. I don't remember many of the questions, but the visions I was having were
I do
silver,
have questions.
Smooth ships. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I have questions for you right now. So I don't actually recall you describing to me the visions and things that you saw that we may have experienced. So whatever you're comfortable with or you feel that is appropriate sharing on the air, I would actually be interested in hearing descriptions of the ships, inside the ships, the beings you may have seen, and what you saw that's publicly appropriate on some of those visions.
Okay. I never actually saw full bodies. I saw hands. I saw long, skinny... They were almost... how do I describe this? They were long, skinny, but they were hands. Definitely hands. I remember 4 fingers. God, they were long hands. Thin arms, really thin arms. The color of them reminded me of like a white blue. A white blue rubber is what it reminded me of. And rubber doesn't even come close. All I can say is it was thick skin, really thick but smooth skin, and arms, and that's pretty much what I remember regarding the aliens. I also smooth tables. There was a device where I could only describe one part of it. You described the other part of it, Troy. And right now, I've been trying to put some of that stuff out of my head, trying to lock it away in a filing cabinet in the back of my head, so to speak, because it really upsets me. It upsets me more than I am really willing to admit.
Well, I would be important at this point for Troy, who actually, after the event, went through a couple of hypnotic regressions with Mary Kennedy, one of our UFOiTeam members who is a certified hypnotherapist. Maybe that would be something, if you would like to share, Troy, on how that worked out and what possibly came up from those sessions.
Yeah, I can talk about some of my memories that I have recovered. So, the first thing that, some of the first memories that came through without hypnosis were beyond clear, like they were solid and real in my mind. The first thing, it was a few days after that Wednesday meeting that, after the Mount Adams incident, when Nikki had these visions and hits about what happened. And after she had told me that we had gone up, that we went up, and that was the first time in my life that I had actually considered that I would have gone up off planet, that I know of. So then I was contemplating that idea, and I wasn't traumatized by it, but it was just in my mind and almost bothering me in a way, just not knowing what happened. So one day I was sitting in my backyard. It was a summer day, so just relaxing, and I was thinking that hypnosis is a recovery of memories that are within a person's subconscious mind and cellular memory. So I decided to sit and relax and just ask my body and my subconscious mind, if anything did happen, what it could tell me and what happened. So I did that, and the first thing that came through was really clear, and I would describe it as not just a memory, but in a way like an actual telepathic connection in that moment. It's weird because I've had another one of these memories that's also an in the moment interaction outside of time, basically. But what I saw in this first memory was a silverish metal, about the size of an electric toothbrush handle, kind of tool, kind of like a dentist tool is what I would describe it as. I get the feeling that this thing was probably on a wire or a cable that was hooked up to the ship or something else. But I just saw the head of this thing, and what it looked like was the head had 3 prongs in a triangle formation, sticking out of it, like at least an inch or 2 these prongs were. And then on the end of each of these prongs was a needle. So there were 3 needles. And as soon as I saw this thing in my mind, it was not just a vision or a memory. This thing actually shocked me with a cold electrical shock that I felt physically run through my body. And I think that has happened once before when I had another one of these memory recalls on my own. So that happened. Then not too long after that, another time I was in a very relaxed state of mind, I saw something in my mind that came through very clearly as if it was a memory too, but it was so weird to me. I had never seen anything like it that I know of or that I was aware of. And I call it the whiteboard. It's like a approximately 6 foot tall, some sort of crystalline substance that these aliens use. And it is like a vertical board thing. I think it can collapse into the ground when they're not using it. I have a drawing of it that I've showed some people. But it has 7 hexagonal panels on it. So these hexagons are arranged actually in kind of a hexagon shape together, like a honeycomb design. But as soon as I saw this, it was so clear and interesting, but it also put me in a state of mind that is something like theta, I think. It was very clear and like an altered state of consciousness. So when I was aware of it, I woke up or came back to awareness in my body and then tried to go back into that to see what else I could remember of it and try to remember the thing itself better. And so I went into that and even saw, it's like I was in the room again. And it's what I call the command center. A good way to describe it is a lot like the command center in the Death Star in the Star Wars movies, except it has kind of a darker, kind of dark bluish, grayish, textured, almost granite-type floor, curved walls, kind of a large space, and curved windows that you can see out into space. And I saw the planet Earth and moon that night from the command center. But in the middle of this room is also kind of a sunken pit with chairs and monitors. And when I see this again in my mind, I do get the feeling that those chairs, whatever they were kind of small. Possibly for smaller type people. I don't know what the monitors were for. I think they were a lot like the other technologies on their ship that are metallic and self-activating, and you can interact with them with your mind. So those are the first few memories that I can describe. However, one of the more recent, I think it was in January, hypnosis sessions brought forth more clarity that I was even able to remember an elevator, which other contactees I've heard talk about this. Susie Hansen, which our team went to Port Townsend, some of us, to actually listen to when she was there in person talking about her experiences. And these elevators are like a cylindrical tube, like part of a wall, sticking out of a wall. And of course, they're vertical, go up and down. And it has this like cutout, almost oval-like opening that's just always open, and the beings can go in and go up and down to different floors, different spaces, and it's like it's not like our elevators that run on cable systems. It's an energy, flowing energy sort of thing that transports you.
Well, Troy, let me jump in here. Did you have any specific recollections during any of Mary Kennedy's regression hypnosis sessions that you had after the event?
I did, and I can get into some of those.
Well, let's pick up one or two at this point, and then we're going to go on and kind of finish up some of the other issues that happened there as well. But I think that would be fascinating if you did do, at least I know, 2 regression sessions that might be interesting to relate.
Yeah, I'll get into some of this. I'll try to summarize it or go quickly, but I think there were actually 3 regression sessions that I had with Mary in total. I feel like it was 3. So there were 2 of them. Maybe there were just 2. Anyway, I got more clarity as I got more regressions and got more memories that came forth, not just in the regressions, but also what happens is more memories and clarity tends to trickle through after the regression. But in the regressions, I experienced the start of the Mount Adams incident, August 27th to the 28th, that night after 3 a.m. I remembered that fairly clearly in the same way both times that I visited that. And what happened is I fell asleep. And then I remember leaving my body, my physical body stayed in the tent that I was sleeping in, and then my astral body rose up, and I feel like I actually went out the side of my tent, and not too far from my tent. Now, I'm thinking about this now. The Sasquatch that I remember in this hypnosis was not in the place that the footprints I found was. Anyway, it could have moved. But I saw this Sasquatch standing near my tent, and I don't remember exactly the words or whatever conversation we may have had, but I do recall just having conversed with him briefly, and he told me that he would be a guardian to guard my body while I was out.
Troy, 1 second. Whoever is making noise, it's really affecting the background while Troy's talking. Can you mute yourself? Thank you. Please go on, Troy.
Yeah, so in this memory, I was in my astral body, and I talked with the Sasquatch that would be the guardian of my physical body. And I'm pretty sure there were other Sasquatches. I think this is a message I got, that there were other Sasquatches in his tribe that may have been guarding some other members of the team and people in that area having similar experiences. So it's like they were facilitating this from the ground. However, what I remember is not being led by anything, but just being called to walk towards the road that was running by our campsite, or float, or whatever I was doing in my astral body. And I went towards a clearing where there weren't so many trees on the road, and above me was a black triangle craft. And what I remember is being underneath it, and then the next moment being inside of it. I don't remember the transition process. It just was a quick thing. It's very bright in there. However, not too bright, but there's not a light source. It's like the light is coming out of the walls, diffused lighting.
That's what
I
I
feel
saw
like it's
in my
kind of
visions.
a little bit of a golden colored light. That's what I keep remembering. And whenever I try to think about this, I don't see rooms or cavities within this triangle. It's just one open space. And I saw a mantis in there. I was greeted by a mantis. And this mantis I actually was not even aware of until I had a hypnosis session. I remembered this part in the triangle. He greeted me. His name is Darian, and it was a fairly quick ride. These triangles, of course, can move very fast. We went from the lake area to the other ship. I call it the satellite ship because it's actually in communication with some of these other stationary objects on Earth that arrived last August before we went to Mount Adams. One of them is actually under Mount Adams. And so I went up to the ship, and what I remember is getting off the Black Triangle craft. It was like I was in an airplane hangar. There may have been some other smaller crafts and ships, but I don't remember them clearly. But I remember this space, kind of a large, open, metallic, sanitary space, an airplane hangar type. We went up a ramp. The ramp was to our left from where we got off the triangle, and that's where I got on the elevator, which I think took me above the hangar to the command center. That's most of the detail I remember of that ship. I still want to go back and revisit some of that to get more clarity. Then there was the next night. I was actually completely alone. I think Dan and Josh had left on the day of the 28th, so this was the night of the 28th to 29th. I was sleeping completely alone at the campsite. I was actually a little bit timid and afraid to do that by myself because I put out the campfire myself after Ray and whoever else was there left the campfire. We were talking again for a while, but not until 3. And I put out the campfire by myself. I definitely was not alone. I felt like I was being watched. And I swear I heard some small noises around me, but I'm just not sure exactly what it was. Anyway, I just basically went straight to my tent and went to bed because I didn't want to stick around outside to see what would show up. That might be Lee or someone else, but there's some background noise on a phone, so if that can be muted, that would be great.
Yeah, and I don't even hear
Anyway,
it. What is the background noise on the phone? Like, what do you hear exactly? I don't know. I don't hear anything but you.
Static
Oh,
and somebody talking.
Oh, weird.
No, I think it's Lee Strauss on the top of the mountain there. So we can, at this point, probably just end his channel if you're.
Well, can we say goodbye to him and what is it, Andre or what was his name? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Lee and Ander.
Ander, and yes, we have
Ander.
muted,
I'm saying
so
Andrew and Andre. I'm so bad with names.
Yeah, you guys, you gotta mute your thing there, or else we'll just cut it off.
Muted.
Okay,
it
well.
Was muted.
Oh, wow.
For some reason.
Yeah.
That's so weird because I'm not hearing it, but you guys are, and you guys are all in Washington, and I'm here in Colorado, so I'm like, wow, what are they hearing that I'm not? But you guys all hear it, and I don't. So that's interesting to me.
And it's coming across to the chat room, too, to everybody in the chat room.
Holy shnikes.
Okay, well, listen, one last thing since we've got Lee on the line here for a moment. Troy is talking about these feelings and things of how he felt, but I think Lee has got an interesting thing that he calls the heebie-jeebies, or some kind of a feeling that he gets when something like this is happening. And I wondered
I know what those are. Heebie-jeebies. It's kind of like your arm hairs raising and the tingling up your back and woo.
The racing heartbeat, yeah. It's just, that's after being abducted so many times. It's like when it's your time, and you can't run anywhere, or when something's around. I mean, it's just a feeling you get, right? So
that's what I was having
me
with
a lot
the
of
vision.
us get that feeling. No, I just get the racing heartbeat. My hands will start to sweat. I'll start getting really fidgety, nervous. Like you say, the hairs on your neck stand up. Yeah, that's the feeling. It's really an uneasy feeling.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, Lee, you'll say you get that feeling just before there's a major sighting that you record on your devices. Is that about right?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
That's when I know they're around, and I better pay attention.
Okay. And one last thing, if Ander is available, if he wants to just say any last words, we'll sign off, you guys, and hope that you don't get abducted on top of the mountain there tonight.
What are you talking about? That's what we want now. We're done being scared.
That's right. You guys are ready. Well, listen, if Ander wants to say something, put him on. Otherwise, we'll say goodnight to you guys at this point.
Good night, all. You guys be safe.
Okay.
You
thanks.
too, Lee.
Good
Have
job.
a good night. Stay safe
please.
on that mountain. Or that hillside. Whatever you want to call it.
Yep. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Keep
All
your
right.
eye out.
Bye, Lee.
Just to kind of wrap up. Just wrapping up.
Michael.
Well, let's just wrap this thing up here in the next few minutes or so with some final statements that we want to make. But I wanted to mention there were two other issues that kind of correspond with what we were talking about at Takalaka Lake, because when we got back, I realized that I indeed had a triangle puncture wound on my left wrist that seems to correspond with the instrument that Troy was mentioning himself seeing in this vision. So that was a strange thing. It was definitely, and I took photographs of this. This is up on our website on Facebook as well, UFOiTeam. But then the last was that the steel shoes I was wearing during the entire weekend, one of them, the left one, seems to have been magnetized. Amazingly, compared to when you take a steel-toed shoe and put it next to a compass, it basically reacts big time and draws the compass to it. The right shoe that I had did not do that. It was much less of a magnetic response. So those are two strange things that also respond to what happened at Takalak Lake.
Where was the what side of your body was the puncture marks?
They were on my left wrist, and my
and your left boot.
And my left shoe was the strongest magnetic thing too. That was kind of weird. Yeah, definitely. Listen, let's go through, because we only had a few minutes left here, and we heard last from Lee, but we've got Troy and Nikki maybe wrapping up your thoughts here on this entire event, and or then if Tessa has any chat room questions, we can wrap that up as well.
Yes, and we have 16 minutes and 24, 3, 2, 1 seconds left. So, yeah, let's hear from you guys, and then we'll go on to our chat room questions.
You want to try something, Troy, just to wrap up your point of the event?
Yeah. So one interesting thing about the event is that the second night of the event, when I was sleeping completely alone, I did have some fears, but I also felt like they wouldn't actually hurt me, whatever was around. So I went to sleep again, and for a while I was not clear on what had happened that second night, but I knew something did. But more recently I recovered some of those memories myself. And what happened is that it was another astral event for me. I went straight up this time, though, out of my body and straight up through the top of my tent, and either through or around the branches of the trees that were around my tent. And then I think it was straight up from there, even further into the triangle that was probably directly above me. And so that event was not off planet. Visiting that memory, I actually was shown that we went to the mountain. They brought me to Mount Adams. And even inside of it. I don't remember so much exactly where we would have gone in or how we got in, but I remember that we went inside of it, and it was underneath the mountain, far, far underground, that they took me. There's a cavern from the lava tube network under there that they're occupying, these beings that I'm involved with and in contact with. I was in contact with them before the event, but they brought me there and showed me a pyramid, which they have there, and I understand that this pyramid, and I think there are several other pyramids, about 6 of them, that are stationed around different places on the planet, places where humans can't get to.
Correct.
And these pyramids, I think, are all about the same size, probably the same inventions or same devices, but they're this white crystalline material that I think is actually the same material that the whiteboard is made of. That would make sense to me why the whiteboard would also be able to be used to connect with these pyramids on Earth. And so I went inside this pyramid at one point, but the important point I want to make is that these pyramids are for measuring the Earth's magnetic field, the changes it's going through, monitoring it. They've been telling me about how it's been changing, and not just how it's been changing, how things could change, but largely in relation to human consciousness, collective consciousness, because our thoughts and energy fields are magnetic. And one thing that has been kind of downloaded and explained to me is that there's so much, as the human population is growing and Gaia wants to ascend to the fifth dimension, there's so much growing just because there are more humans on Earth, and there's also growing hatred and polarization and division, especially related to politics and other issues around the world, that the negative thoughts that many people have around the world so frequently is what is really aggravating the uptick in seismic and volcanic activity we're seeing. And I was also shown a vision of Mount Baker erupting, which could devastate a lot of Washington State. The ash cloud could devastate Washington State. But that doesn't have to happen, and that is dependent on how we all act.
True.
Well, okay. At this point, I don't know if Tessa, she's been very patient with us tonight, listening in, and probably has a few questions of her own, maybe, or people in the chat room. We've only got a few minutes left, so maybe we should wrap it up here with some feedback if we can.
Well, I'm just loving to hear your guys' story, and even on break you guys were talking about it, and you guys were talking about blisters and different abrasions that had happened on your body that you don't know where they came from. What are your thoughts on that? Where did that come from?
Yeah, there was, the issue of the missing time. That was strange. Not just, anecdotal evidence of missing time, but we've got, the CPAP machines. We've got the things that happened at the top of the mountain and at Takalak Lake at seemingly the same time, about 3 in the morning. We've got the cars that died, and around the same time, not just ours, but other campsite cars as well, batteries dying in the middle of the night that night. And then, of course, these puncture wounds that I had on my left wrist, which were strange and weird, to kind of just, happen overnight. And then the left sheet I had, the magnetic anomalies there, as well as the clear magnetic anomalies in the campsite itself that we documented with our digital and analog compasses. And then, of course, on top of all of this stuff, we have the Bigfoot activity that seemed to be ongoing throughout the entire event. From the beginning of East City Ranch with the Bigfoot cat that were done a few days before we showed up, to Takalak Lake itself and the full moonlight glimpses of tall shadows in the background of the woods, as well as the game cam being opened up and turned off that same night as well. So
for
between
sure,
all those,
and we are, Michael, I hate to interrupt, but we are at the end of our time. Can you tell our listeners where to find you and your UFOiTeam and your YouTube videos?
Oh, we would be honored if they go to UFOiTeam on YouTube. Check out our videos, our UFOs that we've caught on tape, and other interesting videos. We also appear all the time on Facebook at UFOiTeam, and Monday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time are our weekly broadcasted meetings on Facebook.
And there's also UFOiTeam.com, which also has a store attached to it via Etsy.
If you need any UFOiTeam gear, hats and coffee mugs and T-shirts, we've got it all there too. So it's kind of fun.
I want to thank you so much to Michael and to the UFOiTeam. It was so wonderful having you guys on the show this evening, and I'm so very grateful for you guys being here.
Thank you so much, Tessa. Good job tonight. Thank you, UFOiTeam.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, and wherever else in the universe you were listening tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively, having the UFOiTeam and Mr. Michael on. And I can't wait to do it again next weekend on spacedoutradio.com, as I will not be on tomorrow night because it is Easter. So you guys, until next time, 99 love and light to all my space cases out there. You guys have a wonderful Sunday. I'll see you all back here next weekend. And don't forget, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we own the night. You guys take care of my yous, and we'll see you back here next weekend.